Chewing time with Korean movies.
What is the best dignity of king? And what king has a dignity of king and can understand the reality of common people of the country at the same time? This is the essential question we have when we choose the leader of the country. Maybe this wish made American great writer Mark Twain create the story, The Prince and the Pauper. Koreans also have the same wish to have a good leader. And there is one king in Korean history who has two absolute different sides of characteristics as a king. He is Gwanghae, the 15th king of Joseon dynasty. He was a cruel king who killed his brothers for his position on one side. But on the other side, he was only one king who made due system in tax for common people. Even though historical documents record the fact, we should try to read between the lines for truth. When I was a young student, I thought Gwanghae was just a cruel trend. But nowadays we found that he is very innovative and reasonable. He tried to improve the quality of common people's lives in the country and make decent balance between countries. Interestingly, the annals of Joseon dynasty skipped 15 days of records in the era of Gwanghae. No one records what happened during that time. A young movie director, Chang Min-chu, demonstrated new imagination about skip to record of history to show new face of Gwanghae in 2012. The title of the movie is Gwanghae, but it translates as masquerade, which implied his artist plot. He received Directors Awards at the 49th Grand Bell Film Festival in Korea in 2012. The coward Sonjo was one of the worst kings of Joseon dynasty. People didn't trust the king because he was busy escaping from the Japanese troops just for his own safety. Only the rest of the people suffered in the war. The king who lost the confidence from the people is bound to be checked out by the power group of ministers. The groups of ministers became much stronger. Gwanghae was Sonjo's son, and he showed good leadership during the war against Japan. Even though he had good leadership during the war, when he became a king afterward, he was always checked by the powerful minister. Sometimes he was threatened by unknown poison. Sometimes they took his family hostage and tortured him psychologically. Gwanghae becomes restless with endless anxiety. He even cannot sleep with ease. At 8 years old, reign of Gwanghae, he at last ordered his men to find the stand-in of king secretly. The clone Hasan is taken to the palace and practiced to imitate everything of a king. His style of talking, walking, and tone of his voice. When Hasan's role is thought to finish, Gwanghae suddenly loses his consciousness. So, Hasan is taken to the palace again for the role of King Moor. This project is carried on in top secret by the chief royal secretary with the head eunuch and a royal physician. When Hasan heard about this plan, he thought it was too dangerous to take a risk. But he changes his mind when he hears that the plane is not for him, but for the country. He tried to do his best to avoid any mistakes. At first, he feels really ashamed that he is truly open to many people. Even when he used the toilet, he should be open to many maids. He should understand that this discomfort is just a royal custom for protecting the king. And when many kinds of delicious foods are served for him, he should learn that they are not just for him. Because many people who work in the kitchen for king cook for only king, not for them. He should learn quickly that the leftover king's foods are their meal. When he doesn't know what to do, he escapes the problem by giving excuses with illness or getting away with it. When he experienced some arguments between ministers, he tried to know what is the point of the argument. One of the big arguments is tax system. The point is that tax is given only to persons who have land. But many ministers are against the new law. Hassan tried to know why many ministers are against the law. Another problem is from people identification law. This law is an essential and important to people, but it also has big problem because this law is a basic system to get tax and labors from people. So when the burden of tax is too heavy, people threw the identification away and crossed the border to another country. Hassan showed his determination when it needed against the powerful minister. He always has a warm heart to the people who are around him. The head eunuch is the first man to open his mind to Hassan. So, when you want to know what the point of the problem or how to solve the problem, the head eunuch always tries to support him to understand and solve the problem. Maybe because he found Hassan really worried about people and the country. Hassan is a clown and a joker. He has experienced the weariness of poor lives and a variety of snobbery of people in power. He, as a clown, consoled the poor and ridiculed the snobbish. So, he soothed the people in pain around him with all his heart. When he asked to head eunuch Sangson what the problem of identification card is, he comes to know that the card is the basic foundation of tax and compulsory labor. Sometimes the tax and compulsory labors give people too heavy burden. So someone escapes from the burden by crossing the border to another country or even removing his genital to become eunuch. He understands the suffering of Sangson from the bottom of his heart. Many maids in palace work for king. Some are working in the kitchen, and some are working at the house chore for king. Sawal, one of the kitchen maids, tells her stories when the king asked why she came here. Because of the heavy burden of tax, her family were scattered and her father died from the harsh punishment because he couldn't pay the tax. Hassan feels the sadness and promises to make her to meet her mother again. Even king cannot avoid oppression from the minister in power. Despite the lack of evidence of particular treason, the major group asked the king to kill queen's elder brother. The power group tried to check in the king in this way. The major group is so strong that even king cannot neglect their demand. In a desperate situation, Hasan saved king's brother with his determination. He is powerful and majestic when he demands the release of king's brother. When power and landowner group reached the start of new tax system, which charged tax to the landowner, Hasan, as a king, says the poor are suffering from the heavy burden of tax and scolded the minister for not doing anything for the poor. He realized that the poor borrowed rice or money to pay tax, and then the higher interest make another interest, and their loan grew bigger and bigger to the amount of money they cannot pay back. Many families are scattered to be slaves or made to power groups. Hasan ordered big punishment for the people who raised their fortune with too high interest for the loan. He also ordered the minister to return the unfairly collected goods to the owners. When king's elder brothers were tortured by the framed charge, he showed his dignity as a king with ordering to set him free. The royal guard catch there is something wrong with the king. When he feels deep suspicion about king, he challenges clear the doubt. When he cannot be sure he is right, he attempts suicide. Hasan saved the guard and ordered him to use his weapon to protect king. Hasan burst anger when major minister thinks the people's lives as a beast of straw and abandoned the pride of the country for their fortune. Hasan shouted, "You should be ashamed of yourself. If one is a true king, or king called the parents of people, even though he steals or begs, he must save his people. Motherland and people are 100 times more precious than flattering etiquette." The real king recovers his health and begins to prepare to come back. Hasan becomes the one to be removed to both the real king and the majority group. The king and the chief royal secretary advising him to escape from the palace as soon as possible. But Hasan refused to run away because he promised Sawa to let her meet her mother. Sawa saved Hasan with her life by taking poison from the king's meal. "Wait to you, but true king to me," the royal guard declared and protected Hasan with his life. When Hasan left by ship, the chief royal secretary sent him off with a true courtesy, as if to see the king off. History is a record of winner, so sometimes we should try to read between the lines. The important thing is Gwanghae was the only king who carried out the tax law, which lay on tax on landowner. Some kings also thought the need of that kind of law, but none overcame the power of majority. Gwanghae's tax law was the one which was against the power group, but for the poor who has not even a patch of land. Gwanghae was expelled in the name of cruel king, but that does not mean the next king was welcomed by the people. He exiled to Gwanghae Island with his wife and died of old age there. he was not put to death or assassinated. Maybe power group was afraid of people who respect him. True leader is not from the majority group or wealth, but from the respect of people. The actor Byung-yeon Lee is awesome here. His acting in this movie tells what the real hero in the movie is.